Beyond the Mic with Sean Dillon.
We're joined on the Starline by journalist, author, educator, and program director of the Newburyport Documentary Film Festival. His next book should be the one any rock and roll fan should buy immediately. Backstage and Beyond Complete. 45 years of rock chats and rants. We welcome James Sullivan.
Hey, Sean. Thank you for having me.
James, let's go beyond the mic. You've contributed to the Boston Globe, former editor of Rolling Stone, the Maine campus, and the Sweet Potato. Your wife, Roza, kicked you in the rear to get this book put together. What was the first story you knew you had to have into this book?
Jerry Lee Lewis. It's the start of the first book, which is more the first year. I mean, it's out as an ebook now, complete, both volumes together, plus 11 new chapters. But when I first started writing, the best story I have is Jerry Lee. There were about 5 or 6 years where I had this relationship with him, which went well beyond just the typical journalist rocker relationship. Spent a lot of time with him, spent some drinking time with him, spent some angry time with him, some happy time with him. It's a really good tale. And it's kind of gnarly in places. He talks about the allegations about him killing one of his wives. You know, we get into some tough stuff there too. That was one where I just said, well, this will start it off, and I think it will give people a really good idea of the depth that this can go to. Not all of them are like that, obviously, but that was a good one.
How did the line between critic, feature writer, and fan needed to be blurred, in your opinion, telling that story and so many others?
Just the, I guess, basic journalistic credo of you tell the truth as you know it as best you can. And, you know, if something is off the record, I mean, there are rules about that. If an artist says, I want this to be off the record, you have to agree, okay, it's off the record, and then it's off the record. None of this was. And, you know, it came, if you will, from a different time when artists were a lot less cautious maybe about what they said. And Jerry Lee was, you know, yes, he liked to drink, and that helped him loosen him up. You know, there was a freewheeling aspect to him and to his persona, and he just let it rip. And, you know, so everything said was on the record. And I mean, I served, you're right, as in the role of an interviewer, feature writer, critic, and fan to some degree on all these things. It somehow worked for me. I can't explain how it did exactly, but I was able to kind of segue from one into another or put them all in one package, and none of it felt awkward to me.
What was the story that almost didn't make it into the book that you fought for when they were initially written in bookend form?
Well, you know, it's funny. I mean, it was really a case of winnowing down from an awful lot of them. There are, with the expanded ebook that's out now, the complete, there are 72 chapters. I mean, it's a massive book. I mean, on you know, if you get it on Kindle or what have you, it's 714 pages or something like that. But in terms of things I wanted to get in and didn't, there's nothing, to be honest with you. I mean, anything that I came up with that passed muster with my editor, Ira Robbins, went in, and he was pretty much gung-ho on what I had and the variety of things that I had, which ranged from, you know, the folk artists like Judy Collins, Joan Baez, to hardcore punk artists like Flipper and the Sex Pistols, the Ramones, people like Leonard Cohen, Marianne Faithfull, Warren Zevon, Roxy Music. You know, there's a big range there. You know, the idea from the get-go really was to encompass this wide expanse of rock and roll that I covered over all those years, and to some degree am still covering. Not as intensely, but, you know, that's where I lived and have lived.
Anyone who gives respect to Public Image Limited, I have to give the tip of the hat to. It is James Sullivan. His book is the incredible Backstage and Beyond Complete. 45 years of rock chats and rants. And he joins us for the Rocking 8. All this is, James, is 8 random questions. Answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. There's no pressure.
Oh, boy.
What was the best tip Mary Helen Georgiadis gave you in high school?
Not a tip exactly, but the perseverance to learn the craft and to not give up on writing, and to do the drills and learn the grammar and the structure of sentences. She was my best. She was in the book as a dedication because she was the high school teacher that inspired me the most to do what I do, even though at that time there was no inclination I was going to become a writer.
How about the most underrated album of all time?
Underrated by who? By the public?
By you.
Let's see. Let's go with the Kinks, and you could pick several of those. I would say Something Else, the Kinks, 1968. Great record. The Kinks, as you may know, got kind of lost during that period. They couldn't play the U.S. They were banned for various reasons, and a lot of their records fell by the wayside. So their audience, after You Really Got Me, kind of in the U.S. anyway, went way down, dropped off the charts until they came back in the 70s. And that's one of the great lost records, I think, for a lot of people.
Best drink you ever had at Margaritaville was what?
Didn't go. Never there.
Oh. Favorite of all the swans at Ward's Park right now?
Well, we haven't named them at Ward's. We have two. My wife and I are swanners, so we go and watch these guys. The sad part of watching swans is their cygnets, their children, and they started out with 5 this year, and they are down to 1 right now. And so we go every few days to check in on them, say hi, and we wish them well. And the one that's there is growing big, and we think he may be able to resist the predators that are going to be there.
Best round of golf you ever had was where, and what was your score?
My best ever was at Newton Commonwealth in Newton, Massachusetts, with a 79. The most fun I ever had, and this is actually in the book, in the ebook, it's an added bit to the Alice Cooper chapter, was playing with Alice at that same course last year when he came to town with the Hollywood Vampires. And we talked, we golfed, and it was a very fun experience. Alice has so many stories to tell, and a lot of them I retell in the book. The interesting part for me was I was golfing and I wanted to do well. And Alice is a great golfer. He's a scratch golfer. And I didn't want to embarrass myself. And for whatever reason, I was able to focus both on the golf and the talking and listening and writing things down. And I shot, we played 2 rounds, 9 holes each. And I shot a 40 on the first day and then a 44 on the second day. And I was pretty happy with both.
What's your typical Santarpio's pizza order?
It would be a ground beef pizza.
Favorite place on the University of Maine campus?
I haven't been there in years, but I can say when I was there, it would have been the game room. It had bowling, candlepin bowling, which if you're not in Maine, you probably have no idea what it is. I love it. So candlepin bowling, pool, and pinball. And I was a pinball nut when I was a kid. I spent both a lot of money there, won a lot of games, hustled a little bit, and had many a wonderful afternoon pumping quarters into a machine that we loved called King Cool, made by Gottlieb, the best of the pinball manufacturers, but way better than Bali.
How about your favorite Marilyn Monroe movie?
All About Eve.
It's time for One Big Question with the author of Backstage and Beyond Complete, 45 years of rock, chats, and rants, James Sullivan, Beyond the Mic. One fact is immutable. We all die. What musician's death has hit you the hardest?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'm going to say Warren Zevon's. I got to know Warren really well, and of the people in the book, probably he and Ray Davies of the Kinks are the 2 I got to know best. And Warren and I had a wonderful but complicated relationship over the many years. And the show he did with Letterman, you may or may not remember, where he was the only guest, it was just so touching talking about his impending death. He and I spent a lot of time. We talked about death before he had the death sentence. He wrote a lot about death. We had a relationship that was, I don't know, it was quite wonderful. And I mean, I cried, when that happened.
He thinks the Kinks, Something Else, is underrated, never went to Margaritaville, and wants you to read his book, Backstage and Beyond Complete, 45 years of rock chats and rants. James Sullivan, thanks for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thanks. Thanks very much. I appreciate it, Sean.
And that, my friends, is a Beyond the Mic shortcut. If you're enjoying these conversations, please check out another Beyond the Mic episode to find more actors, artists, and people you need to know. We'd also appreciate a like and subscribe on the Good Pods app.